Well, I am very excited to be here. This guest is playing a woman whose life falls apart after her phone gets hacked, and wild antics ensue on this show, I Hate Suzie. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby. With me is Billie Piper, lead actress, co-creator of this show on HBO Max and Sky. And you co-created this show, Billie, with Lucy Prebble, and the two of you have a really long creative history together. So I was wondering if you could talk about that. You both first collaborated on Secret Diary of a Call Girl. And so how did you first know that you were gonna, be long friends and long-standing creators together?
Well, I knew from from reading Lucy's first play that I was really interested in her creatively, because I felt like she obviously wanted to talk about things that were uncomfortable, and that's always been very interesting to me as a performer. Our friendship really blossomed towards the end of Secret Diary of a Call Girl, where we felt maybe the show hadn't been realized as in the same way that we had intended, but that we were going to remain friends. And I really made a play for her at the end of the shooting, and sort of said, no, we should really be friends. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, that sort of like, oh yeah, we'll be friends forever, sort of showbiz insincerity. And then I made it quite clear to her that I wasn't gonna just walk away from it in probably quite an aggressive and an aggressive way. And then we worked together again on a play called The Effect. I think that was like 3 or 4 years later. Then I would spend a lot of time hassling her about working together on a TV project, but I would send her different ideas and adaptations I thought she would do really well. She rejected all of them, and then I just got tired of it in the end. So then we I don't know, our friendship really hit its stride in our late 20s, early 30s, where we would counsel each other through quite significant changes in our life for different reasons, and that was where Suzie was born. Really, it was born out of 5 years of counseling each other, and and I feel like it's a sort of friendship for life, but we will see.
Well, let's hope it's for life. Well, speaking of friendship, I had read that the show, your original kind of idea for it was actually about a friendship between two women. It had a slightly different form, which there are elements of that still in I Hate Suzie, but it certainly now has taken on a different kind of story arc, with this being about a hack of naked photos being released online and the after effects of that. So what were those conversations like? How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, it was definitely in its origins. It started off as a more sort of familiar sort of friendship-based show that was mirroring sort of more directly what we were going through, but it just felt quite tired conceptually, and also it's just not as formally exciting as we wanted it to be. And that's when Lucy came up with the idea of the hack. Our protagonist was always going to have a profile, so be an actress, but Lucy likes a big theme, and when we were just dealing with this sort of friendship idea, it just wasn't enough. So then she came up with a theme of the hack, and then the 8 stages of trauma grief followed suit, and meant that we could really lift the lid and pull apart discussions that we'd been having through these different stages of trauma and these different emotional stages of trauma.
I was really intrigued by that theme. Each episode is titled after a stage of grief or stage of trauma. And so it really cycles through these different tones and different styles each episode. Like Fear has elements of a horror movie in it almost.
Yeah.
Was that an appealing aspect of it to you, to sort of be able to hurl yourself into these different dynamics?
Yeah, it was very appealing and very deliberate. We wanted each episode to feel formally different. The world of her being an actress meant that we could open it up a bit, and it could feel quite heightened, and the stakes could feel really high, and also just massively, well, absurd and entertaining in equal measures. Yeah, we wanted each episode to feel very different. And that device really helped with that, and meant that we could make it feel very immersive. So whichever, as you say, whichever title the episode was, we would lean into that formally, and so you would get, shock is what feels very much like a literal panic attack, and then again with, as you said, 3, Fear. She's shooting a sort of genre-based horror show, but really the horror is happening at home, and that sort of, we were mimicking Hitchcock and things like that. So that whole episode needed to feel like a horror movie, without it being sort of too on the nose and too broad. But yeah, it was very exciting to work in that way, and it's something that I think we will continue to do.
Yeah. I was struck in that shock episode, the debut, there is an extreme use of close-ups in that episode, and I think that's the immersive aspect you're talking about. It's a very visceral experience as a viewer. What is that like for you on set, having to perform in that way the whole time?
I really like it, because it just feels like a very intimate relationship with the camera, and you don't actually have to do a lot because it's doing a lot of work for you. And it feels to me like a piece of choreography, and it feels very dynamic. And I love that feeling. I love the feeling of it almost being like dance, because I have a background in dance. So that was sort of satisfying, that that part of my life that part of my professional life that I really miss. And also just knowing that it was going to be quite effective and feel quite new. I'm a massive Cassavetes fan, so he uses extreme close-ups a lot, and I've always found it to be incredibly affecting. And I'm always amazed that people don't use them more often. I feel like somehow I feel like people have sort of not wanted to use them because it's felt sort of cheap or very TV or something, but I've found that extreme close-up to be massively impactful. So when finding the right director, we were very sort of explicit about how we wanted it to feel, and we were hoping to find a good marriage with the director, and we found that with Georgie, and then later with Anthony Nielsen. It was sort of a marriage of minds, really, as it should be.
Yeah. There's you mentioned your background in dance, and there you do get there's some, one moment Suzie could have a musical moment and break into song while she's walking down the street. It does have these pretty wild tonal shifts. Is that difficult for you to track when it goes kind of a little left of realism?
No, I love it. And actually that's, I feel like in the last 5 years, I've been able to find work that has facilitated that part of me that I sit in creatively. It's the sort of stuff I love to watch, and to actually move away from more sort of mainstream ideas and lean into slightly more abstract stuff, which is my taste naturally. Feels like I'm at home finally. I find it hard to do the opposite thing, I think. Or not hard, but just less fun.
Well, we want it to be fun.
Oh
Gotta
no.
have fun.
If you're going to be at work for 14 hours a day, you want to be having a laugh, you know?
Yeah. um, there's, even though there are these things that are a little surreal, perhaps, there are elements of it that sort of mirror your own life. Like
Mm.
Susie starts as a singer. She has a massive sci-fi genre fan base from a sci-fi show she did, and you obviously have that from Doctor Who. So what led you to sort of include those little snippets that do mirror your own life?
Um, because they are fun to dramatize, and they mean that the stakes are really high because there is this very public nature to our there's this very public profile, and and but actually saying that, I think if any professional person on, whatever level, had their phones taken, hacked, um people would find, very incriminating bits of information on those phones, something as innocent as a Google search maybe, and that could potentially pull apart a person's life. I arguably, it does more damage to a woman's life, especially when there's sort of sexual content, or just a woman not behaving. Yeah, it just meant that we could really pump these ideas up, by giving her this background in, in a shared background to my own, and I also know it inside out. It's
Mhm.
been my life for more than it hasn't been my life, so it's it's sort of satisfying to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah. Um, and she, since you're, co-creator, Lucy, she's writing all the episodes for this. So does that sort of give you, and you as a co-creator within this setup that you have, does that give you sort of leeway to say, oh, I've always wanted to explore this concept or this dynamic as an actress, and it seems like there's room to fit a lot into this show?
Yeah, we work really closely like that. I can say to Lucy, like, this is, I really want to dance. Here I am again with it's because I haven't been out dancing. It's just in my mind. I did genuinely say to her, I really just want to dance more in this show. I just want to have that. And yeah, she sort of, Lucy will relish that as a writer. And she's not frightened of someone saying, can we do this slightly obscure thing? I think because we both have a background in theatre, we're used to doing strange and um, heightened versions of real life. So in terms of our taste, yeah, we share a similar taste and a similar
Mhm.
sense of humor, which is quite obvious when you watch I Hate Suzie.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your theater background, because she, in a way, Susie Pickles, reminds me a lot of Yerma, I think.
Mm.
A
Oh,
similar
really?
style character, which we were very grateful that you were able to transfer that here to New York at the Armory.
Yeah.
Do you, because she's, Yerma, I think, is another woman sort of on the edge and gets obsessive. And are you kind of drawn to those really heightened, extreme characters? Do you find yourself gravitating that way?
I'm just drawn to honest portraits of women, um, and what it means to be a woman, what it costs you to be a woman. And although all of these characters feel, possibly quite extreme or quite heightened, I just think we're not used to seeing every shade of a woman on screen. And so we're used to seeing women behaving and doing the right thing, making the right
Mm.
choice, or being bold and not being a victim and being a wallflower, like making punchy, progressive steps. And the truth is, it's a lot. It's a lot. And as a woman, certainly when our late 20s, early 30s, we talked a great deal about not really knowing who we were in those years, having adopted many different identities and personalities to sort of fit in with what the world demands of us, which can lead to this sort of inevitable identity crisis. And so I guess I'm just drawn to any story that wants to show women as sort of interesting and honest, at the risk of being unlikable or crass or overly sexual or hysterical or mad. We're all of those things, and also very gentle, very nurturing, or sometimes not. Just let's just have it all out. That's something that Lucy and I, again, we wanted to do with this piece of work.
Yeah, and it's true with that.
And it shows.
Well, it's true what you say, especially thinking about the sort of inciting incident of her, photos getting hacked. We've seen that element in film and TV before, like that, incident, but we don't see normally a story about the after effects and how this one moment ripples through a woman's life. So does it feel sort of like uncharted territory, I would say?
Oh, well, thanks. I that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, because I know your time is limited, we're at Gold Derby. We track, all of the award season. So I would be remiss to let you go before asking actually about Yerma, to bring it back again, because you have an impressive feat with that play when you did it in the UK. There are 6 total Best Actress awards in the theater world in the UK, and you are the only person right now to have won all of them in a season. So what was that experience like back then, getting that kind of reception for that play?
Obviously amazing. And completely overwhelming and very moving. It's funny with awards, because you're sort of taught to play down how good it feels to win an award when you're older. As a kid, everyone sort of rallies behind you and celebrates you, and it's sort of acceptable somehow to enjoy your success. When you get older, certainly in the UK, possibly not so much in America, although I don't know, there is a sort of stoicism around it that I find really, really boring. So look, to win those awards for that play at that time in my life, which was a tricky time, was really very meaningful. And I don't think I'll ever feel or know that again. And I just felt proud of myself for once.
Well, very deservedly so.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me. Everyone who's out there watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby, keep up to date with us. And Billie, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.